Welcome to Chel Talk, the place for all things hockey, from bar down snipes to bone rattling hits. We're here to talk about it. Introducing your host, YaBoyZuu and Bee Rhodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, hockey fans of all ages, welcome back to Chel Talk with Zuu and Bee Rhodes. My name is Zach, aka YaBoyZuu, and I'm joined here with my co-host Brody, aka Bee Rhodes. Bee, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Aw, dude, I'm doing fantastic. Hockey season is back, and I know for myself, I am so excited for it to be back. What about yourself? How are you enjoying the season so far, Bee?
It's been good, man, but a rough start for my Oilers. Holy, not ideal.
Yeah, the Oilers are off to their stereotypical beginning of the season stuff after we saw last year. Me, on the other hand, the Flames, man, I tell you, who would have thought? Who would have thought about the Calgary Flames? We will obviously get into that and more throughout this episode, but today is a special day for the Chel Talk podcast. Today, we are going to be doing our 2024-2025 NHL season predictions. That includes standings, that includes awards, and that also includes our Stanley Cup final predictions. But let's talk about the news that's going on in the NHL lately, B. I have a question for you to start off the podcast. Are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Fire away.
All right. So, I looked this up literally, I swear, like 10 minutes before the show. Out of the top 20 highest paid goalies in the NHL, how many do you think have won a Stanley Cup?
Of highest paid goalies?
The highest paid goalies in the NHL, the top 20 highest paid goalies, how many have won a Stanley Cup?
I am going to say only one.
Close. It is a low number. It's four. Four of the top 20 paid goalies are Stanley Cup champions. I'm trying to remember them off my head. Vasilevsky, Sergei Bobrovsky, Jordan Binnington, and then I believe the fourth one is Aiden Hill. Now, keep in mind that the top 20 paid goalies only go up to like $5 million is like a top 20 paid goalie in the NHL. The only reason I bring this up, B, is we got to talk about goalies and some hard-earned cash. We've had some crazy contract negotiations between the Boston Bruins and Jeremy Swayman. Now, of course, Jeremy Swayman going into this season didn't have a contract for day one of the NHL season, noted restricted free agent. There was some bitterness between the team and the goalie. Apparently, I didn't watch the interview, but this is what I heard. Apparently, was it Jim? No, it wasn't Jim Montgomery. Was it the GM of the Bruins? I can't remember who it was, but basically was asked why Jeremy Swayman and them haven't come to an agreement yet. And basically he said, if I was him, there'd be 64 million reasons that I would be playing right now. Obviously alluding to a contract offer that was given to Jeremy Swayman. Then Jeremy Swayman's agent fired back and said that was not the offer that they ever received. Long story short, Jeremy Swayman signs his contract with the Bruins, 8-year contract. B, do you think the Bruins were in the right for putting him on blast like that, or do you think that Jeremy Swayman's team was in the right for clapping back?
Well, to start on your point there, the guy that you were referring to is the president of the Bruins, Cam Neely.
Cam Neely. Right.
And to be honest with you, I think that Boston's not in the right to throw their goalie under the bus like that during a contract negotiation. Like, he's your goalie of the future, and I don't think it's fair to throw him under the bus like that. So I think Jeremy Swayman's camp has every right to throw back, and because he's just defending his client. So I think he has every right to defend his client in the way that he did with Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I also am in the same boat with you. I think the comments made by Cam Neely, thank you for pointing that out, by the way, totally blanked on Cam Neely's name of all people. I think those comments were pretty harsh. I think those comments were definitely uncalled for. We haven't really seen that many situations where a contract negotiation goes to the public and that ugly, so I think that was kind of a low blow. I know there was a lot of rumors after those, that interview that there was potential for trade talks with Jeremy Swayman, and man, Boston is really jeopardizing their future with their goalies after, losing Linus Ullmark to free agency to the Senators, and then of course, not getting a contract done in time with Jeremy Swayman. It was looking pretty dicey for Boston, but good for Swayman and his team for standing their ground. And my second question is, B, do you think Swayman is worth the $8.5 million he's getting per season?
Right now, I would say no. He hasn't played a full starter schedule in the NHL yet. He's only been like a 1A, 1B type situation. So I think he has all the potential in the world to prove that. But as of right now, I would say no, he's not worth 8.5 at this current time.
I'm definitely on board with that too. I think this contract is going to play out very nicely for the Boston Bruins. I think Jeremy Swayman has all the potential to be a top 5 goalie in the NHL. And you're looking at some of the goalie contracts right now. You know, Vasilevsky's making almost 10, Sergei Bobrovsky 10, all this stuff like that. And getting Swayman at 8.5, I think in the last half of this contract is going to be a pretty sweet deal for Boston. But like you said, Jeremy Swayman, he's been, 1A, 1B with Linus Ullmark for the last couple of years. So it's been hard for him to jump out and prove his worth. But I definitely saw, in the last year's playoffs, in the 2 rounds that they played, he looked really good. He looked fantastic against Toronto. And I think the potential is there. But like you said, it's only a matter of time, really. So now that we've talked about Jeremy Swayman, we got another goalie that we got to talk about contract-wise from the New York Rangers, Igor Shesterkin. Apparently, the New York Rangers offered Igor Shesterkin an 8-year contract worth $88 million, which works out to $11 million per season, in which Igor Shesterkin's camp turned down the offer due to the fact that they believe that Igor Shesterkin is the best player on the New York Rangers, and they want him to be paid like the best player. Do you think $11 million is egregious for a goalie of Igor Shesterkin's caliber, or do you think he deserves more than 11?
To be honest with you, I was completely flabbergasted when I found out that Shesterkin turned that down, because that's the highest paid goalie contract ever, and for a goalie to make $11 million, I think is already a lot of money. So when I heard that he turned that down, I could not believe it, to be honest. I was like, how do you not take that contract?
Yeah, that's a lot of money to turn down on the table there. I agree with you. I do think Shesterkin is the best player on the Rangers, and I agree. I do think he deserves to be paid like the best player in the league, or not in the league, sorry, but on the Rangers. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, $11 million puts him very high up in the salary cap era for top players paid. But wow, $11 million turned down by the Rangers camp. It's going to be interesting to see their contract negotiations and what they end up settling on, but that's a crazy, crazy contract to turn down. So interesting to say the least, but I thought we'd bring that out there due to the Jeremy Swayman contract situation. And I think this year is really going to be a prove-it season for Igor Shesterkin. So, but speaking of prove-it seasons, we got to talk about a certain player, a certain young player, a certain first overall draft pick young player, Macklin Celebrini, scoring his first NHL goal in his first NHL game. Now, unfortunately, he is on the injured reserve after the first game of the season, but what do you think about Macklin Celebrini, B. Rhodes? How did he look in his first game, and what do you think comes this season for Macklin?
From what I saw of Macklin Celebrini, I think he's got all the potential in the world. Like, his first goal, I know it was an unintentional first goal, but the play that he tried to make before that goal happened was nasty. Doing a spinorama pass, like the creativity that these young players have coming in now, like Connor Bedard trying Michigans, like Trevor Zegras as well is really well known for that, and Macklin Celebrini. All these kids coming up have so much talent and skill that the league is heading in a different direction that I grew up watching, and it's so cool to see. And I think Macklin Celebrini is going to have a pretty good year. I think I could see him getting 20 goals, 65 points if he plays a full 82 games. I could see that, but depending on how his injuries go, hopefully he comes back soon. But I think this kid's got potential to be a star in this league.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I don't think he's quite on pace with Connor Bedard, obviously. I mean, there's way more hype around Connor Bedard when he was drafted first overall, but that's not to knock anything off of Macklin Celebrini. Like, he's a very good player, and he looked right at home in his first game. Like you said, that play that he made before he got his goal was electric. He's got so much talent, so much skill. He's got such a vision on the ice, too. He's just a fun player to watch, and yeah, I don't know if I would put him at 65 points personally. I think that might be a little high, especially because of the caliber of the San Jose Sharks this year. The 20 goals I like. I definitely could see him getting 20, but I would probably put him more towards like 55 points, maybe 60 points this year. But no, he looks fun to watch, and I really hope he recovers from his injury soon because, man, he makes the NHL a lot more fun, even if he's only played one game this year. Now, we got to talk about it since, Bee's a Oilers fan and I'm a Flames fan. We got to talk about the start of the season for both teams from the province of Alberta. Let's start it off with the Edmonton Oilers B Roads. An 0-3-0 start to the season, all 3 games at home. What is going on in that Oilers locker room, and how are they going to get out of this funk?
Well, to start off, I'm not worried at all, to be honest. I think this team is a very good team. That offensive group is as deep as I've ever seen it. I think it's just a matter of the new guys gelling. I mean, I think it was a mistake on the Oilers coaching staff to not play their top players, especially their new guys, very much in the preseason. I think Arvidsson only played like maybe 2 games, Skinner 2 games. I think, especially for that new line of, because Draisaitl's got 2 completely new wingers. I think it should have been important to them to play most of the preseason games to have that time to gel, because I think from the game that I actually saw, I was there for that game, the Oilers Calgary game. And,
True.
It seems like they lack a fair bit of chemistry right now, and I think if they would have had that time in the preseason, they could have found that chemistry earlier, and maybe that would have translated to more success on the ice right away. I think their biggest issue right now is their offense. I know overall everything's not great right now, but for me, I think their biggest issue is their offense, and for me, I don't think there's anything they have to worry about fixing. I think it's just going to be a matter of time and finding that chemistry. But I think the Oilers are going to be fine. I'm not worried.
Now, Bob Stauffer on the broadcast made a point that he would rather see 4 games of preseason for each team, 2 home, 2 away. Reduce the preseason schedule a little bit. That way, both teams, all the teams, can get more practice time in. Are you a fan of that decision? Would you rather see only 4 preseason games, or do you like the current preseason schedule?
I mean, I don't hate the current preseason schedule. I think it would be better to just get off to the season right away or sooner, so that we don't have the Stanley Cup playoffs going literally late June every year. But yeah, I think the preseason right now is more for the prospects to play and get more time to show what they can do. But I don't know. I think I'd like to see probably 4 or 5 games compared to 6 or 7 that they play right now, and just get into the season earlier and get the season over with earlier. And speaking on your point about adjusting the preseason schedule, I think the NHL is looking at making an 84 game schedule, which personally I do prefer, because then you have even amounts of games against every division. You'd play 4 against everybody in your own division, 3 in the other division of your conference, and then you'd play 2 games against every Eastern Conference team. I do like that setup better, so maybe that's what they're going to transition to in the future. But yeah, I think I'd be a fan of less preseason games and then jump into the season earlier.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that kind of coincides with your point about the lack of chemistry between, the new guys on the Oilers with Jeff Skinner and Arvidsson. I think if they would have had more time in practice and, like you said, Arvidsson only playing maybe 2 preseason games, stuff like that. I just think that obviously in preseason, the more time you can practice is better than games, scenarios, game situations, just due to the fact that you can build that chemistry, you can get the reps in, you can get everyone up to speed in practice, and then when the games happen, you've already established a little bit more of chemistry. But I agree with you too. I don't think there's anything really to worry about the Oilers. Like you said, they're, it's the exact same start they had last year. If we, don't forget their start that they had that ended up getting Jay Woodcroft fired. But I think with the skill that are on the Oilers, especially with the new additions, Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, they're, purebred shooters. They're going to find those lanes. They're a little snake bitten right now, and I don't think there's much to worry about. Like we said, it's hard to be worried about the season anyways when you're 3 games in out of an 82 game season. So at the end of, near the end of the season, those 3 games might come back to bite them, but I highly doubt it with how skilled and talented this team is. So I agree with you. I don't think there's really anything to worry about, but it is kind of a surprise. Everyone's got high expectations from the Oilers, especially since they went to Game 7 of the Cup Final last year. I think there obviously is very high expectations, and I'm sure it'll turn around shortly. With Connor McDavid at the reins, it'll turn around shortly. But we got to talk about the Calgary Flames too, because man, they are off to a start that no one expected either. They're 3-0 to start the season. They picked up a big comeback win against the Vancouver Canucks, down 4-1, and they come back and win in the OT 6-5. Then they put up 6 on the Philadelphia Flyers, beat them to 6-3, and then of course the Battle of Alberta where they beat the Oilers 4-1. What do you think about the Calgary Flames start, and how do you think it's going to continue throughout the rest of this month and the rest of November?
I think Calgary is a team right now that's playing with nothing to lose. They have zero expectations on them. They don't have to play like they have to be a playoff team or anything like that. So I think Calgary just has the freedom to just go out and play, and I think that freedom is translating to success on the ice for them. But in terms of the remainder of the month and the rest of the season, I don't expect Calgary to continue to be on this win streak. I think they're going to get more around 500 hockey as the season progresses, but right now they're playing with a lot of freedom. They're playing good, and I guess we'll see how long this streak can go.
Yeah, the one thing that's really standing out to me right now is Jonathan Huberdeau. He's got 5 points in 2 games, 2 goals. He's looked absolutely fantastic. He's playing on a brand new line this year. He's playing with Anthony Mantha on his other wing, and then he's got Martin Pospisil up in the middle. And man, that Martin Pospisil, he's just electric. He drives that line. He brings so much energy, and you can really see it in Huberdeau's game. Huberdeau's actually, getting up to speed, and he's finding those lanes, and he's getting open, and it's crazy to see that Huberdeau's bouncing back. But we'll have to see, like you said, how it continues throughout the rest of the season, at least in the early part of the season. As like you said, the Flames are playing with no expectations, and really there is no expectations this entire year for them. If they make the playoffs, great. If they miss the playoffs, that's fine. Everyone was expecting it anyways, but cool to see that they're off to a hot start. I don't remember the last time the Flames were off to this hot of a start in the season, so that, as a Flames fan, is pretty exciting, but we'll have to see how it carries over. But now, B, let's move over to some video games. NHL video games. NHL 25 has been out for, how long now? Early access was out about, give or take, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. We've put quite a bit of hours into it lately. I think I'm closing in on already 100 hours played of NHL 25. How are you liking the game so far, B?
So far, I'm enjoying it. I've actually spent the majority of my time playing Hockey Ultimate Team, and it's pretty funny, actually. Like, I think it was the first weekend of the game. I bought this pack on the store,
yeah.
And everybody was saying you were so lucky that you got the card that you did, because that was such a waste of money. I pulled a Connor McDavid card on the second day of the game, but
B Rhodes made 75,000 coins. No, he made 100,000 coins. And he spent 75,000 of them on a pack in the store, which is a big no-no. If you're a big Hut player, you don't buy your packs with coins. That's committing Hut suicide right there. And he packed a base McDavid out of that pack. He got bailed out so hard, but now his team kind of looks kind of nasty because he's got Connor McDavid on the first line. But yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe you packed a McDavid. So is Hut your favorite game mode right now, or are you enjoying other things too?
Right now, Hut's probably my favorite mode. I never really played it too much in the past. It was just kind of something I did if I was bored, to be honest. But I don't know. I'm just kind of enjoying playing a different mode for once. And I mean, I obviously still love playing World of Chel as well. That's always a great time, playing with the fellas and playing rock solid Tendy as always. But yeah, I think it's a good game so far. It definitely feels a lot better than 24 did. But yeah, just kind of keep playing Hut, see how I can make my team better during the year, and just keep having fun playing Chel with the fellas.
Yeah, I think this year has been a ton of fun. I will admit, the first few games that I played, you really had to adapt to the slower style of play because the game speed is gone down drastically. But what that really, accounts for is the focus on puck movement more than anything, than straight line speed especially. And just having, like you said, playing with the fellas and having a team that we've played so many Chels for years, we have so much chemistry together, and just this puck movement being so dominant, it's been so much fun. We've had a ton of fun. I think, I'm already like, because obviously I'm going to be making another 100 games of World of Chel video. I do it every year. I think every single year that I've done it so far, I've barely got the video out by Christmas time. And we're only halfway through October, and I think I already have half the games like recorded. So that just goes to show you how much we're enjoying this game, because it's actually so much fun, and it just feels smoother too. So I hope you guys are all enjoying NHL 25 as much as we are. And obviously, if you want to see NHL 25 content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see more episodes of Chel Talk, subscribe as well. But now, B, it is time for our 2024-2025 NHL season predictions. We are going to start off with the standings, and we're basically going to go by division. We're going to rank each team. B, I want you to rank them from 8 to 1. I also want you to include your wild card positions, and I want you to give me a brief reasoning as to why you put each team at each spot. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it, baby. Let's start out with our own home division. Let's start with the Pacific.
So you want me to start going 8 to 1 right off the hop?
Go ahead.
All right. So in 8th place, I have the San Jose Sharks. 7th place, I have the Anaheim Ducks. 6th place, I have the Calgary Flames. 5th place, I have the Seattle Kraken. 4th place, I have the LA Kings. 3rd place, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. 2nd place, I have the Vancouver Canucks. And 1st place, I have the Edmonton Oilers. Now I will go
kind of
each.
Figured why you have the Oilers there.
Yeah, I will now explain my reasoning for every team.
Let's hear it.
So we'll start with the San Jose Sharks at 8. This is a team that is still in the very early stages of their rebuild. I don't expect them to be competitive. I expect this to be a team that's going to continue to want to stockpile draft picks. And for the San Jose Sharks, I think they're going to be a few years away from really competing. So that's why I have the Sharks at 8. The Anaheim Ducks at 7. Again, this is a team that's in a rebuild, so to speak. They have some players, like they got Trevor Zegras. They still have Gibson in net. They have Cam Fowler on the blue line, Mason McTavish, Terry, etc. Like they have some pieces, but they're just not deep enough, in my opinion, to really be competitive yet. So I have them in 7th. Calgary at 6. Again, this is a team that has some pretty solid players. They got Huberdeau, Kadri, Mackenzie Weegar, Dustin Wolf, etc. But for me, they're transitioning to more of a retool/rebuild phase, so I don't really expect them to be there. I could see them finishing 5th too, like Seattle, Calgary. They're kind of, for me, could go either way, but I just don't expect Calgary to be competitive this year. For Seattle, again, they're a good team. They've got some good players. I think they are deeper than Calgary at this point, but I don't think they're good enough to be a playoff team yet. So for me, I have Seattle at 5. LA at 4. They are a playoff team for me, but barely. They've kind of proven last year that, or over the last couple of years actually, that they're basically the Leafs of the West right now. They just keep getting bounced in the first round. And they have some veteran players. They got Drew Doughty, Anze Kopitar, and they've got some good young players, Adrian Kempe, Kevin Fiala. But again, I don't expect LA to be a true contender in the Pacific Division, but they're a good team. Vegas at 3. They're a playoff team. They're a very good team. I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to be a threat in the Pacific, but I think the two teams ahead of them are really trying to contend right now in the Pacific, so I have Vegas at 3. Vancouver, they're a team that I think is on the trajectory up. They've got a star defenseman in Quinn Hughes. They got Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, JT Miller. They've got some weapons, but the biggest concern for me is going to be Demko's health. I think if Demko's healthy, they could definitely challenge the Oilers for the top spot in the Pacific. But if he doesn't come back for a while, I could see Vancouver even falling to 3rd in the division, maybe. But yeah, and then for the Oilers, I just think their depth up front is really, really solid. They're going to be a absolute firepower team. that I think it's going to compensate for their defense. They move some pieces out that the defense for the Oilers is definitely my biggest concern on this team. I think Skinner's going to be fine. It's just he always has slow starts to the year, but then he always catches his groove, so I'm not worried about that. The biggest question mark for me is their defense. They lost CC, they lost Broberg, so that's 2 big losses for them in my opinion, but I think their offense is really good, and I think it's going to compensate for their defense. So that's my reasoning for every team in the Pacific, and let's hear what you have to say about where you got everybody.
Honestly, if you would have just said Connor McDavid for your Oilers reasoning, I totally would have accepted that. He's good enough to win the division by himself, you know what I'm saying? All right, my Pacific Division B is a little bit different than yours. I'm not gonna lie. We do have some discrepancies here, so it's gonna be exciting to see how these unfold throughout the season, how they finish at the end of the season. So number 8 in the Pacific Division, I have the Anaheim Ducks. Number 7, I have the San Jose Sharks. Number 6, I have the Calgary Flames. Brace yourself. Number 5, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. Number 4, I have the Seattle Kraken. Number 3, I have the LA Kings. Number 2, I have the Edmonton Oilers. And number 1, I have the Vancouver Canucks. That's my predictions for the Pacific. Let me get into the depth behind it. Anaheim. Man, they stink. They're just not a good team. Like you said, they got some nice pieces. You know, they got John Gibson in net when he's healthy. You know, they've got Trevor Zegras. They've got Frank Vetrano, Troy Terry. Like, they do have nice pieces. But they really didn't do anything in the offseason. And they were not a good team last year, which doesn't warrant them to be a good team this year. If anything, I think they might take a step back because I really don't have any expectations for Anaheim. That's why I have them at the bottom. Now with San Jose I think is going to be an interesting one. They got the young guys of Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith. I think that's going to bring a lot of life to the team. They picked up Tyler Toffoli, who's a bona fide shooter. They picked him up in the offseason. And I really think the wild card there is going to be Yaroslav Askarov. I think if he ends up playing great, which he has been in the minors, and he gets called up, I think he could be a solid piece in net for the Sharks that could steal them a few games. So I have the Sharks at 7. Calgary Flames 6. There's no surprise here. Calgary's playing no expectations. They're not supposed to be good. I don't think they'll be good. They'll end up probably selling at the deadline. Calgary at 6. No shocker there. The big shocker, Vegas at 5. I think the thing about Vegas is that they depend so much on the health of their team. And you look at the team, and they're not known to be healthy. You got Mark Stone. You got Jack Eichel. You got Tomas Hertl. You got a lot of players on that team that are known to have existing injuries, and their placement in the division really depends on them being healthy. And for that reason, if they're not healthy, I think they could slide even out of a wild card spot. Now I have the Seattle Kraken at 4, but I do not have them in a wild card spot in the West. Seattle, I think, made some really good moves, picking up, former Cup champs in Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson. They locked up Joey Decord, which means he's going to be their number 1 throughout the year, and I think he's a really good goalie. I think Seattle made some nice pickups. I think they're a decent team, and if the young guys can, get into the lineup and play good, I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, especially like Shane Wright, especially hopefully for a bounce-back season from Matty Beniers. I think they could be a really good team. Now, 1 and 2, Vancouver and Edmonton. I have Edmonton at number 2. The only reason I have Edmonton at number 2 is that I'm worried that they're going to succumb to the pressure of having to match last year. Yes, they picked up some nice pieces up front. Yes, they're a very good team. Yes, they have the best player in the world since Wayne Gretzky on their team. But like you said, their defense is definitely scary. Losing Cody Ceci, he was a pretty good defenseman back there. He was solid. He always played good for the Oilers. And then they lost Philip Broberg, obviously, to St. Louis. He was starting to show his true colors, and he was starting to look really good. And now you got to hope that Ty Emberson can fill a hole in there. I just think with Edmonton, like you said, they're going to outscore a lot of teams. But on the nights that they don't score more than 3 goals, they're going to have a hard time winning those games. So that's why I have Vancouver at number 1. I think Vancouver, great depth team. Obviously, Rick Tocchet has worked wonders in Vancouver. They have so many good players. They got Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser. Like they've got a fun team to watch. And the way they play hockey, man, is just they're just such a good team. They love to have fun. They're creative. The chemistry is there. I think they're going to be a really good team. And I think, honestly, I think Shelofs and Lankinen can hold it down until Demko gets back. And once Demko comes back, they are going to be a tough team to beat. So that is my Pacific Division standings. Is there anything you don't agree with, B, on that?
I see your points for every team, but I don't know. I just don't see Vegas falling to 5. That
I knew
seems
you wouldn't like the
little,
Vegas.
That seems a little far fetched to me, but other than that, I think your reasoning for everybody is pretty valid, to be honest.
I just think Vegas is going to regress and other teams are going to, leapfrog them. That's really just what it comes down to. I think Vegas is their core players are getting older, they're injury prone, and I just think they're going to regress a little bit. That's just my thought process. Also, I don't trust Ilya Samsonov within 10 feet of a hockey net, let alone the goalie for Vegas. So that's another reasoning. Okay, let's move on to the Central Division. B, go ahead with your picks in the Central.
Oh boy, all right. To be honest with you, I only did my top 3. I thought we were just doing playoff predictions for everybody.
No,
so we're kind of
doing
we're kind of go on the spot here. But all right.
I should before you jump into the Central. Did any of your Pacific teams? Did any of them make a wild card spot?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Which did you have?
I had the LA Kings being the wild card in the Pacific.
Okay, so you got 1-1 in this conference then.
Yeah,
perfect.
I got 1-1. Yep.
All right. Go ahead with the Central.
All right, Central Division in 8th place, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. In 7th place, I have the Minnesota Wild. In 6th place, I have the Utah Hockey Club. In 5th place, I have the St. Louis Blues. In 4th place, I have the Winnipeg Jets. In 3rd place, I have the Nashville Predators. In 2nd place, I have the Colorado Avalanche. And in 1st place, I have the Dallas Stars. And now I will explain everything because the Central is honestly, for me,
it's so wide open.
Between the 5th spot and the 7th spot, I could see any of those teams flip-flopping around. When I say that, Minnesota could be 7th, they could be 5th. Honestly, I think all 3 of those teams are so close that you could have it either way out of any of those teams. So the only clear-cut last spot for me is Chicago. I just think they made some good moves in the offseason. I like the pieces that they brought in, but I just don't think they're competitive enough to be challenging in that Central Division. Chicago's in such a hard division that I think it's going to take a few years for them to get back to where they once were in those dynasty years. So for me, I think Chicago did make some good moves, but they're just not there yet for me. And I will probably just explain all 3 of the next teams together because for me, they're just so close to each other that St. Louis, Utah, and Minnesota, for me, they're decent teams. They're 500 teams, maybe slightly better than 500, but the teams ahead of them in this division, they're really competitive, good teams that I expect to be playoff teams that I don't think they're there quite yet. So for me, I just have them kind of in the mix, but just not a playoff team yet. And Winnipeg Jets, this is a team that they rely heavily on Connor Hellebuck. He's one of the best goalies in the league. They have a pretty solid team. Like Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. They've got some weapons up front. Their defense is not bad either, but I just think they're in such a hard division. And with the moves that Nashville made, I think Nashville's going to overtake Winnipeg for a divisional spot this year. I think Nashville's got a really good goalie as well, and UC Saros, and the pieces that they picked up, man, like Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea, they loaded up, and they still have Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, they are a deep team. So I just think Nashville is going to overtake them for that 3rd spot. In Colorado, I think it's fairly self-explanatory with the pieces that they got, man. They got Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. I think they're going to be fine, and they're going to be in that 2nd spot. But Dallas, they are the team to beat in the Central for me. They've got a world-class goalie with Jake Ottinger. They've got a franchise D-man in Miro Heiskanen. Then they got Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz. The list goes on. And they got to the conference finals last year, and I think they're going to be a team that's going to want to get past the conference final and make that Stanley Cup final this year. So for me, Dallas is just the team to beat in the Central.
All right, Central Division. Like you said, it's a tough one. Our bottom four is the exact same in different order, and our top four is the exact same in different order. So, like you said, the division is wide open. It's pretty clear cut where the teams are going to finish in the bottom or the top of the division, but I definitely have them in different order. So, let me go through. First one, 8th, the last team in the Central. We agree on Chicago Blackhawks. Number 7, I have the St. Louis Blues. Number 6, I have the Minnesota Wild. Number 5, in the second wild card spot in the Western Conference, I got the Utah Hockey Club. Number 4, this one's going to shock you, B. Number 4, in the first wild card spot in the Western Conference, I have the Colorado Avalanche. Number 3, in the Central, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Number 2, I have the Nashville Predators. And number 1, I have the Dallas Stars. Now, I'll go through them real quick. Obviously, Chicago, like you said, made some good moves in the offseason. They're a few years out. They're going to be a good team in a few years, but right now they're just not quite there. Bedsy's going to have some fun. Picking up Teuvo Teravainen is honestly sneaky underrated because him and Bedsy together on the power play have been really good. So I still think Chicago's got a couple of years. St. Louis, I just think St. Louis, man, they're just clinging on to what they had in 2019. I don't know what it is. Like, they're just not quite there. Like, they're not bad. Obviously, running, Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas together on the first line and stuff like that. They're good players. But they just don't quite have the star power, especially compared to the teams in the Central Division. I just don't think they're there. Minnesota Wild, same thing. They're so close, but they're not quite there as well. Kaprizov can only do so much for this team. I think it really comes down to how well their goaltending does. If they're obviously running Philip Gustafsson, if Jesper Wallstedt can crack the lineup and play pretty good, then maybe there's a chance for Minnesota. But once again, they're there, but not quite. Now I have Utah in the second wildcard spot. I think Utah is going to be a fun team this year. Obviously, they've already been a fun team this year. Dylan Guenther's already got 5 goals on the season. I think their young core is really starting to pave a way for themselves. Obviously, Clayton Keller is an absolute dog, and Logan Cooley's look good. Like I said, Dylan Guenther's look good. Barrett Hayton, they got a lot of young guys. I really like the pickup of Mikhail Sergachev. Get a guy in there that's a really good blue liner with some playoff and obviously Stanley Cup Finals experience. I think Utah might surprise a few people. I think they could sneak into a wild card spot. The big one that I know is going to be controversial is having Colorado in the first wildcard spot. I have a simple reasoning, and it's depth. Colorado has some of the best players in the NHL on their team. Like you said, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar. They are like some of the best players in the NHL. All 3 of them are in the top 10 in the NHL. Simple as that. The problem is they're still missing Landeskog, which is a huge hole for that team to fill. They're also missing Valeri Nichushkin, which is another huge hole for that team to fill. Their depth on forwards is pretty lackluster. Like, you got like Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon, and then your next best forward is like Casey Middlestat, which on a good team other than Colorado, he's maybe their third line center. Their depth is just not there offensively, and their goaltending is a huge question. Georgiev has looked terrible to start this season, like just brutal. And they have to run a tandem of Georgiev and Justus Anunen. And Justus Anunen does not have, NHL experience. That's a big, tough, hole that they got to figure out. And that's why I think, Colorado, just because of the lack of depth, even though they have those star-studded players, I just don't think it's there. Obviously, they still make the playoffs, but I don't think they compete for the top of the division at all. Now, Winnipeg, like you said, they rely heavily on Hellebuck, but man, Hellebuck is a good goalie. Top 3 in the league, easily. Winnipeg, just all around, they're the opposite of Colorado. They have the depth. They don't quite have the star power that Colorado has, but they have the depth. They're very good up front. They have a solid D-core, and they have one of the best goalies in the league in the back end. It's hard not to count them out as a top 3 in that, division. Nashville's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited for Nashville this year. Like you said, all the additions, Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea. They got UC Saros between the pipes. They got Roman Josi. They got Philip Forsberg. They got Ryan O'Reilly. They got so many good players. They are going for it all, and I'm here for it. I am so here for it. I think that's so sick, and they're going to be a very top dog in the NHL. But first in the Central Division, Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars are looking to be a wagon this year, an absolute wagon. Like, they look so good. They've played 2 games at home to start this season. They haven't even let in a goal at home yet. Back-to-back goalie shutouts between Casey DeSmith and Jake Ottinger. If those 2 goalies can run it how they're running, like, no one's taking Dallas down. They are going to be such a good team this year, and they're clear-cut first in the Central Division. That is my predictions for the Central. Do you hate them, B, or do you love them?
I think they're solid predictions too. I mean, the Central Division, like we said, is pretty wide open, so anything can happen with that division.
You're not mad at me for dogging Colorado, are you?
No, I mean, those are valid points. Colorado's my number 2 team, but I think that's
true.
very valid, so I can see that happening.
All right, let's move over to the Eastern Conference. Let's talk Atlantic Division.
All right, the Atlantic Division is, that's a very interesting division this year because, again, like the Central, I think it's a pretty competitive division. So for me, in 8th spot, I have the Montreal Canadiens. In 7th position, I have the Buffalo Sabres. In 6th position, I have the Detroit Red Wings. In 5th, I have the Ottawa Senators. In 4th, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. In 3rd, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. In 2nd, I have the Boston Bruins. And in 1st place, I have the Florida Panthers. So we'll start with the Montreal Canadiens. For me, this is a team that I think has made some pretty solid moves since Kent Hughes has come in, but I don't think they are experienced enough and deep enough really to compete in the Atlantic. I think Montembeault is a pretty solid goalie, but I just think he's not experienced enough yet, really. And their decor, they don't really have like a stud defenseman or anything like that. Their forward group's pretty solid, though. They've got Slavkovsky, Cole Caulfield. Like, this is a team that I think is on the upward trajectory in the next few years, but as of right now, I just don't think they're there. Now, with the Buffalo Sabres, like, man, I feel for the Sabres fans, man. They've missed the playoffs for like 13 years in a row, and sadly, I think it's going to be 14 years in a row. I don't think they're a good enough team yet. Like, their goaltending is not bad. Like, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's pretty decent. Like, Devin Levi's not a bad backup either. Like, they got some pieces on defense. Like, they got Dahlin, Bowen Byram, Owen Power. I think in the future it's going to be a really scary decor, but right now I don't think it's there yet. Up front, they've got a few decent players. Like, Tage Thompson's not bad. They've got Alex Tuck. Couple pieces, but again, I just don't think Buffalo's got a deep enough team to really compete in the Atlantic. Detroit and Ottawa, for me, I think could go either way. I think they're both like neck and neck with each other this year of where they could finish. That, like, I could see either one of these teams pushing for a playoff spot, but I don't think they're gonna make it. I don't think they're quite there. But man, like, Detroit with Seider, Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin, Tarasenko, Kane, like, they've got some pieces, and in the future, I think they're going to be a very, very good team. But as of right now, I just don't think they're quite over the hump yet. But within the next couple of years, I could definitely see them being a playoff team. Ottawa, it's really going to depend on how Linus Ullmark plays this year. Like, their biggest issue was goaltending of why they haven't been there in the past, and they brought in Linus Ullmark, and I think that was a fantastic addition for them. But I think for me, with Ottawa, they're still just too young. I don't think they're quite experienced enough yet. I think their players are going to get there within the next couple of years, but I don't think they're quite past like Tampa, Toronto, Boston, those true contenders in the Atlantic. So for me, I have Ottawa just not quite there. Tampa Bay, I think they are a playoff team. They're not in their dynasty days anymore. I think they're starting to fall off now. They've got Nikita Kucherov, who's a world-class player. Braden Point, again, is a very, very good player. They brought in Jake Gensel. They have Victor Hedman, who I think, yes, he's still a good defenseman, but I don't think he's as elite as he once was.
Yeah.
And for me with Tampa Bay, I think it really depends on Vasilevsky's health as well, with how well they do. But I do have Tampa as a wild card seed, but I don't think they're a true contender in the East this year. Now with my top three, I think with Toronto and Boston, I think they're pretty neck and neck. I think it could go either way with them being second and third this year. I do like the moves that Toronto made to address their defense. I think that's been their biggest issue of why they haven't gotten out of the first round. I think up front, they're as good as anybody. They've got Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares is still a very good player. But their biggest issue for me has always been their defense. Outside of Morgan Rielly, they didn't really have like a stud to play with them, and they brought in Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I think are really solid defensemen. I think it's going to help the Leafs try to get over that hump of the first round. Boston, they are still a good team. This is a team that, for me, every time I've looked at their depth chart and they haven't looked that deep, they just continuously manage to get into a top spot. Like it doesn't matter. They always find a way, and I expect nothing different from them. I do like their blue line with McAvoy, Lindholm, Zadorov, Carlo. I think their defense is really, really solid. And up front, they've still got some good players. Like they got Marchand, Elias Lindholm, David Pastrnak, of course. Like they're still a really good team, and I see no reason why Boston isn't a top 3 seed in the Atlantic. And now for Florida, like they're
self-explanatory.
Yeah. For me, they're the team to beat in the Atlantic. They just won the Stanley Cup, and I don't expect them to fall off by any means this year. I still think they're gonna get first in the Atlantic. They've got Barkov, Bobrovsky in net. Like Sam Reinhart's just coming off like 55 goals or whatever he had last season, and I expect Florida to be a true contender again. So for me, that's where I got everybody in the Atlantic.
Cool. I think our top threes are the same. I will admit they're in different order, but like you said, that those top 3 teams, they're all very, very close. It's kind of like the Central Division. Like you have the clear top dogs in that division, then you have the clear bottom dogs. But my order is definitely different than yours, so I am excited to share my order with you and my explanations. So at number 8 in the Atlantic Division, I have the Buffalo Sabres. At number 7, this pains me to say it because I'm looking at the jersey right now behind me, I have the Detroit Red Wings at 7. At number 6, I have the Ottawa Senators. Number 5, I have the Montreal Canadiens. Number 4, just like you, B, I got them in wildcard number 1 in the East, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, this is where things get interesting. At number 3, I have the Florida Panthers at 3. At number 2, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the top dog in my eyes in the Atlantic Division, I have the Boston Bruins. Let's get to the explaining part. So, Buffalo. How many years are we going to say they're close but not quite there? Like, every single year. You know, it's the same thing. Buffalo, they've got some good pieces. They're good. Give them a couple years and they'll be there. And we say it every single year. And Buffalo is just not making any steps. They really didn't do much in the offseason. Of course, they brought back Lindy Ruff, which is cool. Maybe he can whip him into shape. But at this point, I really do think that Buffalo's in need of a roster shakeup more than anything. I just think this core that they have going on is not getting it done. And I really don't see them being successful at all. Now, Detroit and Ottawa, like you said, they're so interchangeable. They feel like the same team. The only reason I have Ottawa ahead of Detroit is because of Linus Ullmark. Obviously, adding a former Vezina goalie, 1 year removed, to your roster makes you a better team. They just make you a better team. And Detroit, obviously, goaltending is a big question for them. They were rocking 4 goalies. They had, Alex Lyon, Ville Husso, Jack Campbell, and then James Reimer got claimed on waivers. So that goaltending core, I'm taking Linus Ullmark, and I think you, the listener, are taking Linus Ullmark any day of the week as well. Now, I have Montreal at 5. I think Montreal is very similar to Calgary, but they're farther on, obviously, in their rebuild. I think Montreal is out there playing with no expectations, but their young core is filthy, and they're going to have a lot of fun this year. Cole Caulfield is probably going to have a fantastic year. Nick Suzuki, the captain, is just a great all-around player. Yuri Savkovsky really broke out last year, and he secured that long-term deal, and he's a solid player. They brought up Lane Hudson this year. Lane Hudson is so electric from the blue line. He's going to be fun to watch. Caden Gooley's gotten better. Sam Montembeau's gotten better. I think this team has just gotten a ton better, and I think they're going to do a lot better than a lot of people expect. Tampa Bay, like you said, they're still a contender, but they're not quite there. Obviously, losing Stamkos hurts a lot. Bringing in Gensel kind of helps it, but other than that, man, like, I don't know. It's one of those things where they're so close to tearing it down. And I think this is really the last year we're going to see of Tampa Bay really making a run for it. Now, the top 3. I have Florida at number 3 just because, I don't know. I think, like, they lost a lot of their depth pieces for their cup run. Obviously, the big one being Brandon Montour heading to Seattle. That's a tough one. He was such a great defenseman for them. They really relied on him and Gustav Forsling when Ekblad was injured. Even losing like smaller name guys like Ryan Lomberg, Steven Lorenz, stuff like that. Like, I still obviously think Florida is a fantastic team. I'm talking here, like, I think the difference between 1 and 3 in this division could be separated by 4 points. I still think they're a very, very good team. I just think that they might get edged out of the top spot, just barely. Now, I have Toronto at number 2. Toronto, obviously, they're very good in the regular season, and that's what we're talking about today. And we're not talking about the playoffs today, so there you go, Toronto fans. You're welcome. Toronto is a very good regular season team. Their top 6 is absolutely nasty. Like you said, they didn't have anyone to play with Morgan Riley, and now they brought in one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, in Chris Tanev. And they also brought in, Oliver Ekman-Larsson as well. I think a sleeper bring in for them is Yanni Hakanpää. He's an absolute animal, and he is tough to play against. But when we're talking about decors, no one, and I mean no one, takes the cake from the Boston Bruins. Their defense core is just so big and so mean and just spit in your face and send the puck the other way. We're talking Charlie McAvoy is your smallest defender. You got Brandon Carlo, who's 6'5". You got Nikita Zadorov, who's 6'7". You got Hampus Lindholm, who's like 6'3", 6'4". This is the toughest defense core we've probably seen in like the last 10 years in the NHL. This D-core is actually like so tough, and they are going to cause so many teams headaches. And I think Boston is just gonna, and that's the thing too, is you get past all these defensemen, and then you've got to shoot on Jeremy Swayman, who's already top 10, top 15 goalie in the league. So I just think Boston is going to be so tough to play against. You can never count Boston out. They're always going to find a way to make it to the playoffs and go somewhere. That's my Atlantic Division. Boston, damn good team. Let's move over to the Metro, be the final division, and then we'll get into our awards predictions.
For the Metropolitan Division, in the 8th spot, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. 7th place, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. 6th place, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. 5th place, I have the Washington Capitals. 4th place, and in my second wildcard spot, I have the New York Islanders. 3rd place, I have the New Jersey Devils. 2nd place, I have the Carolina Hurricanes, and in the top spot, I have the New York Rangers. So for the Metropolitan Division, I think this division for me is actually more well known and who's going to make the playoffs compared to the Atlantic. I think the teams that are in the bottom are significantly less competitive than the teams that are contending in that division. So for Columbus, man, I hate harping on them about what happened this summer. I don't even want to say but for Columbus, they're in a rebuild, and I don't think they are near competitive enough to really challenge in this division. They have a good defenseman in Zach Werenski. Like Adam Fantilli, I think, is going to be a really solid piece going forward. But for me, their depth is just not there at all, and I don't expect them to contend in this division whatsoever. For the Philadelphia Flyers, again, like similar situation. They were surprisingly close to being in the playoffs last year until it fell apart coming down the final stretch for them. But I just don't expect them to repeat that same success that they had last season. I think, again, this is a team that's got a few players, but they're missing Carter Hart. Like, they don't have a true number one goalie for me, and I don't think their defense is good enough. They don't have a true stud defenseman back there. Offensively, I don't think they're bad at all. Like, they've got Matvei Michkov, who I think is going to be a really good player for them, for their future. I'm excited to see what he brings to Philly this year. Travis Konechny is a really solid player as well, like Sean Couturier, etc. But, again, I just don't think Philly is nowhere near deep enough to really compete in this division. Pittsburgh, like, I don't know, man. They could go anywhere this year. Like, obviously they have Sidney Crosby. Like, they've got Malkin, Letang. They're still trying to bring the band back together to try and get that cup before Crosby retires. But I just don't see it. Like, I don't think they did anything this summer to address anything. Like, they just didn't do anything, and I don't expect them to be a playoff team or have any more success than they did last year, to be honest. Now, 5th place with the Capitals. Like, again, I think this is another team that's aging. They're just trying to get Ovi that goals record before they completely tear it down, and they're not deep enough really either for me, and I don't expect them to really challenge for a playoff spot. New York Islanders, they're interesting. Like, they did better when they brought in Patrick Waugh last year, and they started to find their groove towards the end of the year, which got them in the playoffs. But this is a team that, for me, is like the definition of average. Like, they've got some players, again. They're not by any means an exciting team to watch. They're honestly probably one of the most boring teams to watch in the league. Sorry, Islanders fans. It's just how I see it. Like, they've got a really good goalie in Sorokin, which helps. They've got some good defensive defensemen in Adam Pelech, Ryan Pulock, Scott Mayfield, etc. But I don't know. I don't think they're good enough to really challenge in the Metro, to really compete with the top dogs. So I have them as a wild card, but I don't expect them to really be that competitive. Now, for my top 3 seeds, like, I think out of the top 3, they could go either way. I think similar to the Atlantic, I think all 3 of them are really separated by 4 points for me, like 4 to 6 points. I think they're all really close. But in that 3rd spot for me, I have New Jersey. I think they're going to bounce back from last season. I expect them to be a playoff team. They brought in some pieces this offseason. They got a goalie in Jacob Markstrom. They've got Jack Hughes, and it's going to depend on his health for me. Like, Hughes has been a guy who's struggled to be healthy all season, but I think if he is, then New Jersey is a lock for me to be a playoff team. They still are, but their defense as well, I think it's really solid this year. They've got Luke Hughes, Dougie Hamilton, Brett Pesce. I think Simone Nemec is pretty underrated as well. I think
Siegenthaler too.
Siegenthaler as well. Like, they've got a good decor as well. I think, apart from Boston, is probably one of the strongest decors in the league, and their offense as well. Like, they've got Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, Dawson Mercer's another solid player that's kind of slept on as well. Oh shit, my mic fell apart.
Pick it up, B. You're on a roll.
Okay. Anyway, where I was with that. I think the Devils, again, they're a strong team, and I expect them to be a contender in the Metro. Carolina, again, like, they're an experienced team. They're consistently in the picture. It's just going to be whether they can get over the hump. Like, they've been knocking on the door for a while. They've got some good players, Sebastian Aho. up front, like Andrei Sveshnikov, etc. Their decor Slavin, Burns, they're good as well. And I think for Carolina, it's just a matter if they can find it at the right time and just get over the hump.
Yeah.
And for the New York Rangers, my number one spot, Igor Shesterkin, man. That's really what it's going to come down to. Like
The $11 million man.
The $11 million man that he turned down. Like, he might be $12 million man.
The $12 million man.
For all we know, but for the Rangers, they've been there the last couple of years. Like, they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals last year before Florida beat them. But I think they're just ready to take that next step. And if Shesterkin gets hot in the playoffs, which, like, I think he will this year, to be honest. I see the Rangers being the team to beat in the Metro.
I can't wait to see your microphone fall apart when I watch this back. That's so funny. Hey, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to help initiate the Get Bee a Microphone Arm Fund, the donation link will be down below in the description on YouTube. Let's talk about the Metro B. I mean, we have been, but let me give you my predictions. I think they're a little spicy, so I hope you enjoy this one. Number 8, no surprise, Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm just going to rattle them off. I'll give my reasoning why as well. The Blue Jackets, not good. Bad team. Stinky poo-poo. Number 8. Number 7, I have the Washington Capitals. Like you said, they're really just trying to get over the goal record, and that's it. They're not deep. Their goaltending is questionable. Can Logan Thompson really hold a starting position? They have no depth on defense. They're not a great team either. Number 6, like you said, the definition of mid, the New York Islanders. It really, like, they're depending so hard on their goalie tandem, and God forbid their goalie tandem falls apart. They are nothing without Sorokin and Varlamov. They are not a good team. Pittsburgh Penguin at number 5, like you said, they could go either way. They could be bottom of the league. They could be a wild card team. They've got a good, like, core, but that core is aging, and they don't have much other than that core. So they're going to be a tough one to see. And the same thing with Pittsburgh, too. Like, their goaltending. I mean, Tristan Jarry is not a bad goalie, but he really, in the last couple of years, has not proved himself to be a stud goalie. And they rely pretty heavily on Tristan Jarry as well. So I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be a playoff team. Now, for my wild card number 2, the first spicy one, I have the Philly Flyers in the second wild card spot in the East. I think Philadelphia is a slept-on team. I think they have a really good decor. I think up front they're not bad. Getting Matvei Michkov is huge for them. That's going to benefit their power play and their special teams unit so much with him. It really comes down to the goaltending, and yes, they are missing Carter Hart, but I believe that with the trio of goalies that they have back there, Samuel Ersson, Cal Peterson, like, I think one of them can come out and really stand on their head and become that starter, and I think they have a chance to get in that wild card spot, especially with how weak the bottom half of the Metro is this year. I think they can squeak in and get that spot. Top 3, obviously the same as B. And number 3, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes losing Gensel hurts a lot. Losing Pesce hurts a lot. Losing Brady Shea hurts a lot. But that's all that it takes to knock them down from a number 2 spot to a number 3. I think they're still a good team. I think Pyotr Kochetkov is going to have a great year this year. I think the Hurricanes are still a solid team. But I don't think they're quite on the level of the top 2 teams I have. Now, this is going to be very, very spicy. I have at number 2 the New York Rangers. I think the New York Rangers, obviously, great team. They won the President's Trophy last year. They didn't really lose any big pieces. Once again, it does depend on Shesterkin. If he plays like the $12 million man, then yeah, the Rangers could finish first. But I also think that the New Jersey Devils have a chance to win that division. I think if New Jersey is healthy, there is not a lot of teams in the NHL that are better than the Devils. Like you said, forward depth up the wazoo. Defensive depth got so much better. They picked up Jacob Markstrom. They have a tandem of Markstrom and Jake Allen. It's a fantastic goalie tandem. Markstrom obviously proved with Calgary last year he can steal games for the team. And if you've got a way better team up front, I think the Devils could be a fantastic team this year. What do you think, B? Do you think I'm too outlandish for choosing New Jersey at 1?
No, I think New Jersey's a solid team. Like when I said mine, I had them separated only by like 6 points, like between the three of them. I think
Yeah.
the Devils could definitely get the first position. I would not be surprised if they did. I had Rangers, but I could see Devils too.
I think the Devils are just a fun team to watch with how much skill they have and how like high activity their games are. They're just a fun team to watch, and I just want them to win at this point. But that is our predictions for the conferences. We now need to get into the awards. So for the NHL awards, I made B do his homework. We're going to have 3 picks per each award. The first pick is who we think will win that award. The second pick is who we want to win the award. It doesn't have to be the same person as who we think will win it. It can be someone else. And the third pick is a sleeper pick for the award. Someone that we think that can scoop in and take that award out of someone else's hands and no one expected it. So, you ready for the awards predictions, B?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I think how we should do this is we'll go back and forth. So, for the first trophy, which being the Art Ross Trophy, you say who you think will win, and then I'll say who we think will win. So, Art Ross Trophy, your pick for who you think will win is...
Connor McDavid.
Yeah, it's Connor McDavid. I had that too. That's pretty obvious. Who do you want to win the Art Ross Trophy?
Connor McDavid.
Pretty obvious. Mine, though, I have Austin Matthews. I would love to see Austin Matthews win the Art Ross. We obviously know he's good at winning the Richard, but I think it'd be cool if he won in points too. Who is your sleeper pick for the Art Ross, B?
Connor. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. My sleeper pick for the Art Ross, and it's also based on the New Jersey Devils' success this season. I think my sleeper will be Jack Hughes.
Wow. See, I also went with a team from the Metro, but I went with the Rangers. I picked Artemi Panarin as a sleeper for the Art Ross. I think he's got the shooting, I think he's got the passing, and he's got a good team around him. That's my sleeper pick. Let's go to the Calder Memorial Rookie of the Year. Who do you think is going to win the Calder this year, B?
I have Macklin Celebrini.
I have Logan Stankoven. Who do you have? Who do you want to win, rather?
I have, for me wanting to win, I think it'd be super cool. I think this player is just going to be super exciting to watch this year. I have Matvei Michkov.
I also have Matvei Michkov. I think he's going to be so much fun this year. And who is your sleeper pick?
This guy's actually got off to a pretty hot start this season, but I have Lane Hudson as my sleeper.
I love me some Lane Hudson. My sleeper pick is Jesper Wallstedt of the Wild. I think if he gets called up ever, if there's ever an injury or Fleury's not playing good or anything, if he gets called up, I think he could do some damage. So, all right, Conn Smythe Trophy. This is obviously playoff dependent. Some of these players have the potential to not even make the playoffs, but this is based off how we think the playoffs will go and who we think will win MVP. So who do you think will win the Conn Smythe Trophy, B?
I have maybe a slightly spicy, unexpected pick for my Conn Smythe. I have Miro Heiskanen.
Whoa, Miro Heiskanen. I was not expecting that at all. That's a sweet pick. I took the easy way out. I chose Connor McDavid for a second year in a row. Who do you want to win the Conn Smythe?
Obviously I have Connor McDavid. I hope they get back there, but based on my Conn Smythe, I don't see it happening this year. But yeah, I would love to see McDavid win the Conn Smythe again.
That's fair. For me, I have Jack Hughes. I would love to see the Devils go deep, and I'd love to see Jack Hughes win the Conn Smythe. Who is your sleeper pick for the Conn Smythe? This is a really outlandish one. You kind of just have to assume this team's going to be good, and this player's leading the way.
Oh, dude, I went super spicy on my sleeper.
Really?
Yeah, I went spicy for the Conn Smythe. I was having some fun.
Let's hear it.
I picked UC Saros.
Whoa! UC Saros. I love it. That's such a sweet pick. I would have never even thought of UC Saros. I don't know if mine's very spicy, but I kind of expect this team to do decent in the playoffs, and this guy's obviously the leader of that team. I went Quinn Hughes. That is my sleeper pick for the Conn Smythe. All right, Selke Trophy, best defensive forward in the NHL. Who do you think will win?
I have Sasha Barkov taking the Selke.
I also have Sasha Barkov. That's a pretty safe answer. Who do you want to win the Selke?
I mean, to be honest, for me, I had the same answer. I like Barkov as a player.
I also
Obviously,
have Sasha Barkov.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm obviously upset that like Edmonton lost in Game 7, but I still think Barkov's a fantastic player. And
So
shout out Christian if you're actually gonna listen to this episode. He actually got me a Barkov jersey as a gift, and it's a sick jersey too. So
maybe you'll have to throw that on the jersey wall for next episode. A little Sasha Barkov action.
Maybe I could throw it on the right side for the special edition jerseys.
Who is your sleeper pick for the Selke Trophy, B?
My sleeper pick for the Selke is Ryan O'Reilly. He is a really solid defensive forward that I think right now he's kind of getting overlooked by Barkov, and I think O'Reilly is a decent sleeper pick.
My sleeper pick, I'm going to be honest, I don't even like this player. I do not like him, but I know he's good defensively. I know he's going to put up points, and he's going to be a crucial part in the penalty kill on this team. I have JT Miller is my sleeper pick. I think he's just an all-around fantastic player, and I think he's very good defensively. All right, MVP of the NHL season, the Hart Memorial Trophy. Who do you think will win the Hart?
I have, and again, this is going to be based on this team slowly falling out of the picture, but if they're going to continue to be a contender and have a shot, this guy's going to be huge for them. I have Nikita Kucherov.
Oh. So you started talking about a team falling out of the picture. I thought you were going to go Sidney Crosby. And I was kind of, I was like, that's sick, actually. But Kucherov's a very good pick, too. He's, yeah, I think he gets slept on a lot, even though he puts up points damn near McDavid. So I don't know if I'm just riding the bandwagon this year or what, but I got Austin Matthews. I think he's going to win the Hart. I think he's going to pop off this year, points-wise. The Leafs are going to do really good in the regular season. He's going to win the Hart. Who do you want to win the Hart there, B?
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory if you're just looking at the jersey on the right side. Connor McDavid. Yeah, obviously I want him to win the Hart, but I think it'll be Kucherov.
I have Cale Makar. That's who I want to win the Hart. I want to see Cale Makar step up with the absences that Colorado Avalanche have, and I want him to pop off, lead his team to the playoffs. I think he can do it. I mean, he's more than capable of doing it. Who is your sleeper Hart pick, B?
I have my sleeper pick as Jack Hughes. I think the Devils are going to get right back into the picture this year based on both our standings predictions. I think Jack Hughes is going to be a huge part of that.
See, I kind of copped out, and I went with my sleeper pick for the Art Ross. I think that if this guy has an explosive explosive offseason, if he has an explosive season, then he's going to, help the team, obviously. Artemi Panarin is my sleeper pick for the Hart Trophy. Okay, let's move away from the players, and let's head over to the coaches. B, who do you think is winning the Jack Adams this year?
I've got former Leafs coach Sheldon Keefe winning the Jack Adams this year.
I copped out, went with a guy that's very successful in his very short tenure in the NHL, and I went with Chris Knobloch. I would also like to point out that I put in my notes, I called him Kevin and not Chris.
Kevin!
goes to show how much I watch hockey. Who do you want to win the Jack Adams Trophy?
I have Chris Knobloch as the guy I'd like to see win it, just based on when he came in last year. He took the team all the way to within one win of the Stanley Cup, and I think it'd be super cool if he won it after a full season, but not an ideal start for his chances, but you never know.
See, ironically enough, I also took my team's coach. I took Ryan Huska as who I want to win, but I also do think that there is a chance that he could. I genuinely think, due to the fact that the Flames have absolutely zero expectations and they've come out with a hot start and they're playing really good, I genuinely think if the Flames sneak into the playoffs somehow, I actually think he has a chance of winning it. Who is your sleeper pick, B?
My sleeper pick is the head coach of the Nashville Predators, Andrew Brunette. I think he is a solid pick, and I think Nashville will do really good this year, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he got it.
See, now I'm kind of upset because my sleeper pick apparently is not much of a sleeper. I picked Sheldon Keefe as my sleeper, and you chose him as who you think is gonna win it. So not much of a sleeper, but I really do think that the New Jersey Devils are gonna be sick this year. So he's my sleeper pick. All right, Norris Trophy, best defenseman in the NHL. Who is winning the Norris this year? B.
I've got Quinn Hughes taking the Norris this year.
Didn't he win it last year too?
Yeah, I think he's going to win it again.
Back to back Quinn Hughes. I love it. I am not very confident in my pick. I'm more so thinking of how the teams work and how the voting has been lately. I have Evan Bouchard as the Norris winner this year. I don't know why. Just please don't quote me on it if I'm severely wrong, but Evan Bouchard is my Norris winner this year. All right, who do we want to win the Norris, though?
Getting off that bandwagon. It's not an Oilers player. Don't worry.
Oh.
I want to see Cale Makar win the Norris this year, I think.
I also want to see Cale Makar. Yeah, that's an easy one. Sleeper pick. Sleeper Norris pick. Who you got?
I don't know how much of a sleeper this really is, but I have Charlie McAvoy as my sleeper from the Boston Bruins.
I also have McAvoy. See, like, the thing about McAvoy is that he's a top 10 defenseman in the league, but he's never in voting for the Norris. Like, he's never a top dog in the voting. And it's like, I think this year with how good his, like, decor is on the Bruins, like, oh, yeah, for sure. That's a great pick. I'm glad we have the same mind right there, B. All right. Rocket Richard Trophy. Most goals. Who is winning the Rocket, B?
Is it really the Rocket Richard Trophy? Can we just call it the Austin Matthews Trophy?
We could if you want to.
Because that's my pick, so that's why I was asking.
I propose, how about the Draisaitl Trophy?
Nah, it doesn't hit the same.
All right. Well, that was my pick for who's going to win. Who do you want to win?
I have Leon Draisaitl as the guy I want to win.
And I have Austin Matthews as who I want to win. Someone we were screen peeking or something. Someone was copying someone's notes here. Who is your sleeper pick?
Well, this one's kind of spicy, but also not really. I have Kirill Kaprizov as my sleeper.
Yeah, that's fair. Kaprizov, I mean, he scores a majority of the goals for the Wild anyways, so that's a pretty good pick. Mine is definitely not as sleeper as I'd like to think it is, but I don't know. Like, I'm kind of torn between two players. Part of me wants to say Artemi Panarin, because I think he could go off this year, but I also have David Pastrnak, and that's the one that I'm like, it's not really a sleeper because Pasta scores 50, but like, this could be the year that he actually scores the most goals in the league. I genuinely think so. I don't know. Those are my two picks. Okay, a couple more trophies where we talked about the best D-man in the league. We talked about the best goal scorer. Let's talk about the best goalie. Who is winning the Vezina Trophy, B?
I've got UC Saros taking home the Vezina this year.
Nice. I like it. I have the $12 million man, Igor Shesterkin. That is my pick for the Vezina. Who do you want to win the Vezina?
I picked this guy just based on the crazy offseason that he's had. Jeremy Swayman. I would just love to see him get it done after the comments that like Cam Neely made and and his camp firing back. I would love to see just a statement by Swayman and him taking home the Vezina.
Yeah, that'd be sweet, actually. My choice for the Vezina Trophy is Jacob Markstrom. I, ironically enough, am not a huge Markstrom fan. Never really was when he was in Calgary. But I would love to see him get traded to a contender at his older age and just pop off with the Devils and carry the Devils far. I think that'd be cool. Who's your sleeper pick, B?
My sleeper pick is actually the guy you just talked about. I have Jacob Markstrom as my sleeper.
Dang. Yeah, that's sick. I gotta pick better sleepers because apparently my sleepers are not sleepers to other people. My sleeper was UC Saros. I just thought because UC Saros isn't quite talked about as much, I thought he would maybe classify as a sleeper, but I don't know. All right, President's Trophy, the best team in the NHL at the end of the regular season. Who's winning it this year, B?
I have the Edmonton Oilers as the President's Trophy winners.
I have another Western Conference team. We talked about them. They're a wagon. The Dallas Stars. That is my President's Trophy choice. Who do you want to win the President's Trophy?
I mean, to be honest with you, like, I have the
Oilers.
team. Well, yeah, but I don't at the same time because of the President's
the
Trophy
curse.
The curse. Like, I think if I want a President's Trophy team, I'm gonna go Dallas, man. Let's have them lose in the conference finals again to the Oilers. But I mean, yeah, I don't want the Oilers to win the Presidents. It's a curse, man. Never
Fair.
works.
That's fair. My team that I want to win the President's Trophy, I've talked about them a lot this episode, the New Jersey Devils. I think they are probably one of the most fun teams in the NHL, and I think they really have a case for it if they stay healthy. And let's talk about sleepers. Who is a sleeper team to be the best in the NHL?
Man, I swear we have the same mind. Like, what is happening? We've talked
You picked
hockey.
New Jersey.
I picked New Jersey. Like, we've talked hockey together for like how long?
God,
This is
so
like
much.
it's just wild. I don't know. I have New
That's
Jersey.
funny. My sleeper team is actually the Nashville Predators. I genuinely think if Saros is healthy and how deep they got this offseason, I genuinely think they could be a top dog this year. So that's my pick for the sleeper. But now the most important one. None of those matter. It's always the Stanley Cup Finals prediction. We're 3 games into the regular season. This is way too early to be picking a Cup Finals matchup, but we're going to do it anyways. And I can't wait until you guys clip it and say, haha, Zuu, Bee, you guys are dumb. Those teams didn't even make the playoffs, but we're going to predict it anyways. So, Bee, I want your Western Conference team. I want your Eastern Conference team. I want your Cup winner and how many games.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they called me dumb. I dropped my mic in the mid-episode, so that's not ideal. But Cup final for me, I have the Dallas Stars versus the New York Rangers.
Who's winning it?
I have Dallas in 6.
Nice.
Hence, Miro Heiskanen taking home the Conn Smythe.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Wait, Conn Smythe, I had McDavid, but I don't even have the Oilers in the final. Okay. Apparently I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. My Cup Finals prediction, I also had the New York Rangers, but in the West, I had the Nashville Predators. However, I still have the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup Final in 6 games. So we had the same amount of games played, and we also had the same Eastern Conference team. You can tell me and B talk a lot about hockey. But, B, that is going to do it for episode number 2. Those are some crazy predictions. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up the end of the podcast?
Yeah, actually, I'll just say one more point. Like, the reason why I didn't take either of Edmonton or Florida to get back to the final is just because how hard it is to get to the final. That I just don't see it happening again. And I think Dallas is a team that's going to make it. I think they're so deep. And with the Rangers, I just think Igor Shesterkin's so solid in net that he is able to carry a team like the Rangers to the final. So that's why I went with those teams.
No, I totally agree with you. Trying to repeat finals, like Florida already made it back-to-back finals. We saw, like Tampa Bay make it back-to-back. But we truly don't, new hockey fans truly don't understand how hard it is to go back-to-back finals. Like, it is not an easy feat. You'll see teams that make it, a couple times every, 4 or 5 years. But, man, I totally agree with you. It is one of the toughest things to do in hockey is make it to the Cup final back-to-back. And I totally like your picks. I think Dallas is out for vengeance, and I think New York is too. New York is always, they've been a good team for the last couple of years, and they've been right on the edge too. So, no, I like your picks. My picks are just based off vibes. So, but that is going to do it for the episode 2 of Chel Talk with Zuu and Bee. Bee, anything else to close out the show?
Hope my Oilers can get it together. This is painful.
Like Connor McDavid said, dig in right now.
That's exactly what he said.
Yep. And no other way like it. That's exactly how he said it. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 2 of Chel Talk with Zuu and Bee. We will be back for episode 3 shortly, so stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe if you are here on YouTube, and make sure to turn on notifications as well so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. If you enjoyed the episode on Spotify as well, make sure to leave a review. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it a lot. Hope you guys enjoy the hockey season starting up again. Hope you guys are getting your fantasy team lineup set, and I hope you're getting your bets in, obviously, on the games. But until next time, I've been Zuu. I've been joined with Bee, and we'll see you on the next one.